right, welcome to the LBEB show, episode number 23. Today we are covering everything to do with grip training. I think here we're all grip training fanatics, except for maybe Mona. I don't think Mona really cares too much about training grip. She always tries to avoid it when I try to bring her into grip training. But today we have myself, James DeLacy, strength and conditioning coach, work with many different professional and international teams. We have Colin Wolf, 2 times world's strongest man competitor. Also holds a master's in sport and exercise science. And we also have Mona DeLacy, who is a 6 times karate world champion, CrossFit Games athlete, Commonwealth Games medalist in Olympic weightlifting, African champion in Olympic weightlifting, and a billion other medals within the sport of weightlifting. And grip training, I enjoy it. I love it. I know Colin really does enjoy it too. It's a big part of a lot of our training sport, well, especially within strongman too, but even for any martial artists out there or even general health, because grip tends to correlate well with mortality rate. Essentially, stronger you grip, the longer you live, and many other things there. We're going to dive into all sorts of stuff, not just grip training itself, but how you can modify your current training routine to improve your grip, and then just all the ins and outs of training grip, developing thick wrists, huge forearms, and strong hands. So, to start, Cole, obviously you have a big grip training background. It's an important part of strongman with the different events there. Do maybe start by breaking down the different kinds of grips?
Yep. So there's depending on what you're doing, I would classify, like the way I break it down, I would go, there's open hand strength. So this involves quite a bit of finger strength. This is more the type of thing that in strongman you would use with things like natural stones, lifting like oil drums, that sort of thing, where your hand is relatively open. So I don't necessarily mean all the way, but most of the time, if you're holding a stone, even an atlas stone, your hand tends to be more like this rather than fully curled up. And then you've got your I'll call it your closed hand strength. So having that hand relatively close together. And then in between that, you've got kind of that semi-closed position, kind of like an axle. Axle is normally what I would use to think of it, or fat grips, anything like that. And then you've also got, like, you don't normally use it too much in strongman, but crushing strength. So think like the grippers, that sort of thing. Doing that where you're closing it and not necessarily holding it for a long time. I would actually say majority of the time in strongman, that strength that you're after is a little bit more strength endurance based, rather than just purely, maximal strength. However, every now and again you have an event such as double overhand axle deadlift. It tends to be more in grip specific competitions, but that's where it's all about maximal grip strength, what you can hold for just a short period of time. And then you can have that basically on any kind of implement. So there's all sorts of implements, like from lifting those hubs, where it's like a square with your fingertips. And in general, whatever you're trying to train for, the first step is just to train that specific thing. So although like we tend to do our training that carries over to most things, if you've got something very specific like that hub pickup, you really need to be training that itself. And just my final little breakdown would be, when I am writing someone's program, I tend to go with both a closed hand, those are the 3 I do. Some closed hand, a little bit of an open hand one, and then a semi one. So something like a fat bar hold. Open hand could just be even sandbags, and then a closed bar, normally it's behind the back grip hold is my go-to. But yeah, I like to have those 3. Some kind of variant of those 3, depending on the person, depending on their goals and whatnot.
Yeah, and I know you have some of those actually programmed within your strongman programs in the LBEB Underground, which you can find in the description there. And Kong's programs, obviously, his strongman programs cover a lot of grip. But yeah, those are good breakdowns of grip. You could even add like pinch grip in there for the fingers and thumb, kind of like a crab, if you really want to. I mean, the thing with pinch grip though, like your thumb muscle. Holy shit, man. Like, that's the worst feeling, I think, with grip, is doing long pinch holds and then having that thumb muscle just absolutely, pumped.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel right. But, so that's another one you can do there. Obviously, as Cole mentioned, crushing grips or closing grippers. Technically, you could even put some of those more other semi-closed hand ones that Tom talks about as crushing, for example, holding those fat grips and things. But technically, you could call it's a support grip, so being able to like hang on a pull-up bar, etc. And then, as Cole mentioned, with the open hand, it's like a monkey grip. And no, basically, your hands none of your fingers and thumbs are touching, and your hands aren't touching either. So you're using a lot of forearm as well to hold those positions. But how, Mona, are you ready to jump in here, or is Mia still crazy? I mean, I think you just froze a little bit on me there. But the biggest thing, I'll carry on here with some grip stuff then. Well, I think Mona's I think you guys are frozen there, but I'll carry on. So essentially, there's easy ways to modify your current training, so you don't need to worry about adding additional grip work, especially if you're not used to doing grip work. If you go gung-ho from the beginning, you're going to absolutely crush yourself, potentially injure yourself when it comes to your grip. So easy things you can do initially are just holds with the regular barbell, like Cole mentioned, he just behind the back holds with the barbell, hanging from a pull-up bar. Those are things you can easily do that aren't going to be adding too much, I guess, volume to your training or too much intensity even. We still got you, Colin. It's just it looks like your internet's slow, but you're still there. And then, yeah, so those are the easiest ways. Once you get used to some of that and you start to build up that resilience, then you can start adding in other fancier grip exercises. And obviously a big one that Cole and I enjoy using fat grips or a fat bar or axle. Those things are awesome for increasing forearm activation during certain exercises and developing like strong wrists and strong hands, especially when you're doing various rows, pull-ups, deadlifts, etc. Now, like my favorite by far is like a power clean with the fat grips, like a fat bar power clean. That's also, you do that plus a press. I really love that. Even just deadlifting with the fat grips, pulling heavy deadlifts with the fat bar. Now, you don't want to replace your normal exercises and lifts with that, but you use it as almost like a secondary exercise if grip is important to you. And that makes it really worthwhile doing. It just means you still develop your back strength, etc., and your leg strength while developing grip on top of that.
Okay, so regarding grip training, I actually wanted to mention to you guys that, well, James knows, and this was quite surprising. We went to the Austin Fit Festival a couple of weeks ago, or now it's probably like a month ago already, and there was this grip testing competition. And I mean, even though I'm a weightlifter and people expect me to have, strong grip, I'm like, yes, she's also like, what? Mom has strong grip? And there was this like little booth and they did like a grip strength competition. And I mean, I'm 6 months postpartum now. And I thought to myself, I don't want to embarrass myself being a weightlifter, doing a grip test and not having a good score. But I was like, oh, stuff it, I'm just going to do it. And I ended up, being top of all the girls with this grip strength competition. And it was nice to see that I still have some good grip strength there. But regarding grip strength, actually in weightlifting, I mean, it's not really something per se that you will train, but I did do grip strength training when I competed in CrossFit. Now, what was super surprising to me is so I had somewhat of a gymnastics background. I did gymnastics when I was really little. But when I competed at the CrossFit Games, one of the things that I really battled with was the rope climbs, because I just wanted to muscle everything and pull myself up. I battled with things like chest to bar pull-ups, hanging on the bar for long amounts of times. Even I used to get like these massive forearm pumps from doing ring muscle ups. And when I actually started doing grip training after the CrossFit Games, I actually ended up really improving not just my grip strength, but all of those gymnastics movement as well. And things that I would really focus on, I would do like hangs for X amount of times. I would do it on normal bars, fat bars. I would do where you would hold the weight for X amount of time. I would do rope climbs where I would just like climb the rope and like hold there for like, again, X amount of time. And then every week just try and improve it. But I did it like almost every single training. I tried to do some sort of grip training. And it massively improved things like my pull-ups, my ring muscle ups, my rope climbs. And it really surprised me that that was one of my limiting factors at the time. And I think a lot of people don't know this. I mean, like, yes, you can keep practicing the skill and yes, you will become better at it, but sometimes it's like a little missing factor. Like for me, it was grip strength training that I needed. And when I did that, my stuff improved, my gymnastics improved, etc. So that was an eye opener.
Yeah, that's awesome. And yeah, it's probably outside of calves, neck, and maybe abs, the grip is definitely the most neglected part of training. I just don't know anyone really off the top of my head that actually goes out and trains the grip directly or does something to at least emphasize the grip within their training. And I think more people should, especially if you are just generally just strength training just to be strong. I think getting out of just the regular barbell is a good idea. I know I've mentioned on the podcast before, if I had my way in a sports performance facility, I would replace all regular barbell pressing with axle, like fat bar pressing. Like everything would just be with the fat bar for bench pressing, overhead press, all of it. And I think the benefits of using the axle bar when pressing is underrated to an extent. But there are other things you can use too. You don't have to have expensive specialty equipment. Towels are a great way to do grip training. Towel pull-ups, towel hangs, towel curls, towel farmer's walks. All those are awesome for smashing your grip. It just essentially like two hand towels you can just put over the bar and you can do your thing there. Obviously, sandbags, as Cole mentioned. Typically, you want to use sandbags that don't have handles, and they should be rounder. So Iron Mind, in my opinion, makes the best sandbag. I think Cole, you use Iron Mind sandbags at World's Strongest Man.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, if the World's Strongest men can use those sandbags, then anyone can use those sandbags. I've got one in the garage. It's stupidly durable. And the liner inside, if you don't have a sandbag liner, is like $2. And then you fill that thing with sand and you're good to go. So that is my recommended sandbag. Obviously, Iron Mind has a bunch of specialty grip equipment. As Cole mentioned about the hub lifts and things like that. They have like little hub attachments you can add on to like a little, I guess you could say, a post where you put your plates on. All sorts of grip attachments as well. Then you have your fat grips, which we've mentioned. So if you don't have a fat bar, using those fat grips to create a thicker handle is another way to do it. But Colm, how are you mentioned about the three things or the three types of grip you're programming. Where does that actually fit within a training day and within a training week? Because I'm assuming for people listening, if they hear this, I want to train grip, they might not realize that you probably shouldn't do the grip exercises at the beginning of the session.
Yeah, so I do add these in unless grip is a high priority or you have that as an event coming up. I tend to leave it till the end of the session. Normally it can be after any day, to be honest, upper or lower body. But I tend to, if I've got a client who's using straps for their back training, like I've mentioned before, I quite like the straps. If we're trying to focus on getting a mind muscle connection, feeling their lats working and whatnot, we'll throw in some grip at the end. And I heard you say it earlier, I'm not sure if it was this platform or the other one we're speaking on, but
technical difficulties.
Behind the back grip holds are a real favorite of mine. Got those off of Laurent Charlet. And then you also mentioned just hanging from a pull-up bar. I'm a huge fan of that one as well. And a lot of the time, gyms have different size pull-up bars as well, so you can easily do that. And then the other thing, at the end of the session is what I would recommend. I wouldn't do it unless it's a huge priority at the start of the session because it will likely take away from other things. If you're a newer trainer as well, I would also say just be careful what you're doing later in the day. If the first few times that you train your grip really hard, like James mentioned earlier, it's a really funny feeling on your thumb if you've done a lot of that pinch grip style of work. But like I've had times where I'll train my grip hard, I've got a grip event coming up, and then I'll go to pick up my drink bottle and it just straight up flies out of my hand. because those muscles of the forearm are like so fatigued. So I used to do a job where I was handling glass a lot. And like I used to have to be careful if I trained grip the night before because the next day I wouldn't be able to hold up like onto the glass properly. And that would be $1,000 down the drain. So just be aware of that. And one other thing that I would recommend, which I like to get my general population people to do, is so you're mentioning about like the hub lifts and that sort of thing. A really
Yeah.
simple thing you can do is so with my clients at the gym that I train in person, we have to carry our plates like across the room to a different station or whatever. Also dumbbells. Our dumbbells are hexagon shaped, so I
Yeah.
like to get them to grab the top of them and then they just carry them
Yeah.
across the room.
That's a
Same with
nice
the
one.
plates. If we're carrying a bunch of plates, I get them to pinch grip the plates. So let's say you got two 10 kgs or two 5 kgs, you pinch grip those together and you carry them across the room. It's just an easy way of getting volume in while you're loading plates for the next exercise. It doesn't add extra time to your workout. And obviously, you still keep that within yourself. You're not trying to do something crazy and, lift 245s together with your non dominant hand and whatnot.
Yeah. No, I love those. And I'll add a couple more grip movements. I'll use my empty Fairlife bottle as an example. Hopefully it's not a thing. But like if you have a sledgehammer or even a light sledgehammer, you can do like Thor's hammer. So it'd be like letting the hammer come forward and then back and having to essentially stop the movement coming down. That's brutally tough on the top of your forearm. Obviously, start holding it closer to the hammer end versus the bottom end. The longer the lever, the harder it is. And then also you got pronation and supination. Good for just general wrist health. So if you have your arm out here, you're literally just turning pronation and supination with the arm and hand with the weight. And that's a great way of just general forearm health as well, and to build the forearms and the wrists. And those are two pretty easy exercises you can do. You don't need to use a sledgehammer, even just a normal hammer. Even pots and pans in your kitchen, if you're training at home, you can use those too. And those are options for you if you're looking for more things to do with your grip. But how many sets, reps, and how long are you looking to hold things, Colin, with some of these grip exercises? Because I'm assuming you can go stupid heavy and hold for 1 to 3 seconds, or you can go a little longer and even go 30 plus seconds.
Yeah, I tend to start off. So I got this purely from Lawrence Charlet, who's got a fantastic grip and strongman. 3 sets of 30 seconds, and then add a little bit of weight each week. You're starting with a weight that you could hold on that first week for about 40 seconds. So it might be quite challenging for the last set, but if you just add 2.5 to 5 kgs each week, that's a really nice, simple way. So 3 sets of 30 seconds. Otherwise, I do the exact same thing with hanging from the pull-up bar, depending on the grip that person is wanting to focus on more. Normally, that is just as long as they can hold it. If dealing with a lot of heavyweights, they're not going to be able to hold themselves too long. It's likely, around that 30-second mark again. That's a nice starting point, and over time, I would work up to a minute. If I've got lighter weight guys who can do over a minute pretty easy, then I tend to use that behind the back grip hold with that 30-second mark. The other thing I would do is if you're going to be doing farmers walks, an easy way is just to hold. I normally say an extra 10 seconds at the end of your set. So if you're doing a 50-meter set, it's probably taking you around 30 seconds or something anyway. Adding an extra 10 seconds at the end is a nice, easy way to get some extra volume in. But in general, I like to go with those little bit longer timed holds rather than the super short ones, purely because I find people overdo it too much otherwise. So just with other training, if you went in there and you maxed out your squat every time, you're going to burn out fast. If you go in there and max out grip work every single time, the same thing will happen.
Yeah.
So I see a lot of people do that. They want to start getting a stronger grip. And then what do? They just like do their max pickup. And then the next week, their max pickup again, like max axle hub or max, fat bar. You want to, if you're starting off with that 30-second mark, you've got a decent amount of volume and you can work from it.
Nice. And you can do that 10-second trick with like deadlifts and things like that too.
Yep.
Especially if you're doing double overhand. And that's just easier ways you can add grip work to your training without doing anything extra. Is there anything you want to add to that, Mona, before we move on to the next segment? She's just waiting to unmute herself. Yep.
Sorry, it wasn't working the same like Riverside. Yeah, like everything that Cole mentioned, I agree with. I think that I could also probably add is, and again, this is you holding it for extra seconds, is the thing that helped me was like doing things with tempo. So I would do like my pull-ups with tempo, and yeah, basically if I did like ring muscle ups or whatever, I would do it strict as well. Um, but then something else, an exercise that actually helped me as well that I wanted to mention when you guys were talking about exercises. And I used to do this actually when I did karate. Like I had like a dumbbell and we tied a rope to it and then we had a plate at the bottom. And I used to do these rolls.
Mm.
Um, and then I would roll it up and then I would roll it, basically like unroll it. And that was an insane forearm builder. And yeah, that was one of those exercises when you guys were talking now, it kind of just like I had a flashback. But then also another thing that we do as weightlifters is we would do a thing with the barbell where you would sit at the end of a bench and you would roll the barbell out onto your fingers and you would roll the barbell back. So it's like a wrist curl type of
Yeah.
exercise. And we used to, back in the day when I used to be on my national camps when we were training for international competition, we used to do that like really frequently. And we used to do this after training. And we just used to like, we used to do like 3 sets of 10 or whatever. And then, you know, it's one of those exercises again, like as you get stronger, you can start to add weight, but you'll be really humbled doing it because you'll probably think that you can go really heavy and then you'll find that your forearms will burn out really quickly. So yeah, those are 2 exercises that I used to do that was really good. But when it comes to reps and sets, another thing that I would actually do, and I did this for CrossFit, but then I also did this as part of, you know, I'm part of Primal Mobility and just doing mobility training and then also grip training with that, which was actually really funny but good. We would like accumulate, I think it was like every second day or something, you would do like 2 minute hangs. So you would try and accumulate 2 minutes. So if like, for example, you could do like 4 sets of like 30-second hangs, or you would do, you know, like a 10-second hang and then a 20-second hang and then a 10-second hang and whatever until you get to like 2 minutes. And that I also found was something that like unintentionally build my grip strength as well.
Yeah, those are that's all good advice for anyone listening and different exercises you can use. But we want to introduce a new segment. We had some technical difficulties. We had to move over to Zoom, so we've got limited time on here, and hopefully this comes out right on Zoom versus on Riverside. But essentially, I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to break down some training footage and some lifting videos for you watching on YouTube. If you're listening on Spotify, etc., you're still going to get some benefits out of this because we're going to talk about it essentially. So I'm going to share my screen, and I want to get this thing going. Let's see if we can get this one going. Boom, share. All right, you guys can see that?
Yep.
Yeah, sweet. Move that out of the way. All right. So we have our first video that we're going to break down here. Ass to Grass Trid on Instagram.
Is this
Shut
one
up.
of those videos where I should have Mia?
This is probably one we need Mia to start vomiting on camera, to be honest. But this is what we're breaking down here. Squat, 150 kilos for 3, 63 kg body weight, 20 years old. Mia, what's your first impression? All right. What you got there, Colm, for us regarding, I mean, she's trying to do a low bar back squat, you know, kudos for the effort, but what's your take on bar position and foot position?
Yeah, for me, this is what makes me not like powerlifting. I think she's strong. She's absolutely strong, but yeah, to me, it's not. I I don't like calling this a squat, even though I've said all squats are beautiful. I do think like so. If it's hard to say like the depth from the side if I would pass that or not, but the hand the positioning on the back, I think, is an interesting one. Like considering how much of a big deal they make about, um, arching on the bench press and the sumo deadlift, how they're looking at rules for that. To me, like it looks like I mean, would that still be on her rear delts? Obviously, it's
Nah, no
very,
way. It's way below.
it's almost like halfway down her back, right?
That's like
So
below. That's like below shoulder or below shoulder blades.
yeah, I don't. I would think like if I'm not sure if she. So I don't know anything about her. Like I don't know what organization she competes in or whatever. But if this was IPF and they're looking so strictly into those bench press rules and the sumo deadlift rules, I would think they would want to like seriously look at this, even just for the sake of lifters' safety. That hand position. I'm not sure if you guys have seen the video of, well, I think there's a few of them of people actually breaking their forearm
Oh shit.
snaps from having a low bar position. So it's because if the bar's no longer resting like on your shoulders, right?
Yeah, it's supported
It's
by the arms there.
yeah, and that's the part that's going to go. So from a lifted, so me personally, from an aesthetic point of view, I think it's quite ugly. I'm not a fan. From a training point of view, I suppose like if that's a legal form and she can get the lift passed, I mean, so be it. That's the sport. But then a lifter's safety point of view, I would think her risks would be a pretty big risk. Um, and if I was like again, if this was in a competition, I would be thinking of the spotters as well. I suppose it's not going to make too much of a difference if you've got three spotters.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my
But
thoughts on that.
long term, this is setting you up for pain and niggles for life squatting like this. I mean, I understand the bar position, trying to get it closer to the pivot point, but it's at some there's a threshold for that. Like you put the bar on your lower back, you're not going to be able to damn squat. So even though it's like right on that pivot point, Mona, you got anything to add to this?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, I already see she's wearing something around her hands, and I'm not quite sure if those are like wrist guards or anything
Yeah,
like.
wrist wraps.
Probably already has some wrist pain, which I'm like just assuming by watching that. But like when I saw that, like my wrist and elbows just started paining. It does not look healthy. I mean, you get weightlifters, for example, that will squat and like bring the knees in slightly, but like they will still lift heavy weight, but they do it in a safe way. The way especially her right knee goes in, like from this angle that I'm seeing here, I'm just,
Yeah,
yeah, I feel like everything in my body just hurts watching. And I hope that people seeing this aren't like, oh, let me try this, just because they see this and that is a way to get hurt. So, but again, for her, long term, because I think, yeah, she's 20 years old, and I either she has maybe some like exceptional genetics where like her body will last. I don't know.
no, there's no body that will last
That's not, I mean, I'm
years of
just like,
this.
trying to be a little bit positive here. But honestly, I cringe. When I saw that, I was like, no
Yeah,
way.
yeah. So if anyone watching,
So for me, like technique wise, I would be like, you need to go back and fix it.
yeah, yeah, need to hire Coleman monitor to get that squat going. But we can move on to some good technique here.
Powerlifting side.
But we can go to Olivia Reeves here at the Worlds, right? 71 kg category. This was, I mean, she hit some records. I know, Mona, you saw this. So here's her snatch. What's this, 111?
111. She's
And
20 years old. She
stupid strong.
won in this. What did she win there? In the snatch, she got bronze in
111.
the clean and jerk, and total she got silver in the snatch, clean and jerk, and bronze in the total. But to do this at 20 years old at a senior level, and she beat Kate Vibert. I was almost going to say Kate Nye, but formerly Kate Nye. Now she's got a different last name, but Kate, who was the Olympian. And obviously, like, this doesn't mean yet that Olivia is definitely going to the Olympics, but now this pushes her ahead of Kate again. So I'm fully rooting for her. But this little 20-year-old, I mean, I also posted another video. She is insanely strong. She's one of
What's
those.
over 200, right?
Yes, yes. I don't know if you can also share her clean and jerk on here.
Yeah, it just
It
played.
just played.
It's playing again now.
140,
Yeah.
what is that? 142.
142. at
breaking it
20 years old, 71 kilos, like, and it's easy.
easy. She has so much potential in her. Like, you can see this girl is like, yeah, she has just got elite genetics. The first time I ever saw her lift was like quite a few years ago, and she was just one of those girls who didn't look like she could lift heavy at all. She has no like insane muscle tone or anything like that, and she just goes and she does the weight, um, making it look super easy. She's got a great technique, and I think she still has a really far way to go. And I wouldn't be surprised if she wins.
Yeah, it goes to show, like, it's not muscle mass that that develops strength. Strength is neuromuscular from the brain through to the muscles, and you can develop. Well, some people are just blessed with extremely good genetics in this department too, but like, muscle mass isn't one of those things that you have to lift absolutely huge, massive weights. And this is testament to that. 111 snatch, 142 clean and jerk, 71 kilo body weight. Is pretty damn nuts. New records and everything. But we'll move on to our third video. We're going to break down England rugby's preparation. This was 5 days ago. So this was obviously before their first round. So if anyone's listening and are rugby fans, obviously the Rugby World Cup is currently going. Colin, have you been watching any of the Rugby World Cup?
I haven't actually.
Dude, the hell? Oh, I guess it's in a bad time zone for you. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to play this and we're going to break down some of this training. I always think it's funny when you look at the comments on videos of like teams and sports people training, and it's always people chiming in that have no fucking clue, that have never worked with sport before, that end up commenting on it, or people that only like dabble in bodybuilding or powerlifting and think that everything should be done like a powerlifter. It blows my mind. But for example, so some weighted pull-ups. Here we go. So dumbbell floor press. Colin, is that something? I think we've talked about. I think you've used dumbbell floor press a bit, haven't you? Programmed.
Yeah, I've used it just as an assistance move and like for powerlifting and strongman. I was just curious on your takes of all of this, to be honest, because
All right.
like, it's been, for anyone listening, I used to work
You used to work
a
North
little,
Harbour, right? North Harbour
yeah,
Rugby.
well, back when I was at uni, so a long time ago now, but I was with rugby for, I think it was about 2.5 years, but this was all in unpaid positions, whereas James did it professionally, traveled the world, training
Pretty well.
professional rugby teams. So far more experienced and knowledgeable on the topic of training rugby players than me.
Yeah. You still got heaps to offer on this stuff too. But I mean, dumbbell floor press, I really liked, especially the week of the tournament. I experimented with some of my players in one of the seasons. I swapped out bench press for floor press during the season.
Yeah.
And obviously close to competition, they look like they've done the same thing here. And it's good. It's a shoulder saver, right? You're reducing the range of motion. You can still lift heavy weight, but you're not getting that extreme stretch on the pecs and the shoulders. So you're essentially keeping them fresh for what they need to do, which is destroy other people. So yeah, I'm a big fan of the floor press for these instances. Yeah, especially like you're going to a tournament. So a lot of the training now is going to be different to what it was in the build-up. And you want players to be fresh to be able to play rugby and not be beat out from what's happening in the gym, and just reducing that range of motion ticks all those boxes. So yeah, really like the floor press there. Barbell, dumbbell, doesn't really matter. But yeah, I really like that exercise there being added in. So some tackle tech, and I think they got some more training after this. This zone I really like. Boom, banded. So I can't go back to it, but essentially Bulgarian hand supported Bulgarian split squat with the safety squat bar, and then has bands attached, and they're doing essentially drop catches with this. So they're dropping to the bottom position and coming back up as fast as you can. And that rapid eccentric and then into that rebound is an awesome exercise for developing explosive strength, rate of force development, the ability to put the brakes on really quickly. Obviously, all those things are really, really important for sprinting, being able to hit the ground and not deform or have compliant lower body. So I love that exercise, especially during quote unquote a peaking phase where you have a big World Cup tournament coming up. It's like your high intensity stimulus without having to do heavy squats. And you're going to get a lot of that.
He didn't have any weight on there, eh?
I think he had a little bit. I can't go back.
Just a small one and the band.
Yeah, I think it was a really small plate, like a 10-kilo plate, and then the bands that were going to pull him down for the speed. So if anyone remembers physics at school, force equals mass times acceleration. You can increase force generation. Oh, we're running out of time. You can increase force generation by either increasing the acceleration of the movement or by increasing the mass. And adding the bands and having the drop catch puts huge strain on the acceleration side of that equation. You can generate a shit ton of force in that exercise. Yeah, it's a really solid one. Good for developing like that long muscle length, like of the glute at the bottom as well, and the top of the hamstring. So you get a little bit of injury risk reduction on top of that. So yeah, solid exercise. Then we've got some banded sprints with the ball. Quite like resisted sprints, just in general for acceleration development, more floor presses along with that. So yeah, I don't know if you saw that where he's holding the bands. I can't replay it, unfortunately. I'll have to go back through it. But essentially, he's holding the bands before he jumps. He dips down quickly, holding the bands, lets go of the bands, and jumps onto a box. And if anyone hasn't seen that exercise before, you're essentially overspeeding the eccentric portion or the eccentric phase of that movement. And the faster you dip down, essentially the faster you jump up. And you're developing the ability to rapidly decelerate or rapidly go through the eccentric phase of that movement, and then reversing it really quickly. So you're storing a lot more elastic energy. And ideally, if you can transfer it well, you're transferring a lot of that concentrically, you're able to jump higher. With some really good adaptations you get out of something like that with the overspeed eccentrics. And then onto a box, obviously, you get rid of a lot of the impacts that you would if you weren't jumping onto a box. That's where most people get box jumps wrong. They jump onto a box and they jump off, and then you kind of defeat the purpose of having a box to do box jumps. They're basically just some abs, some dumbbell bench, probably for the bigger guys on there. Maybe the floor press was probably for people who had shoulder issues and you don't want to aggravate it, whereas the ones who didn't have shoulder issues are probably on the dumbbell bench. So obviously there's some individual programming going. Yeah, there we go. It's 20-kilo plates on their safety squat.
Oh, that's pretty big.
Yeah, big boy, So yeah, there's the drop, basically the drop catch box jump. Yeah, so some cool training in there just to dive into, but I think we're going to run out of time very soon. Yeah, because we are on Zoom, we had some technical difficulties, but next week we'll be back with our normal Riverside recording that will give you better things. Zoom sucks. And we just had, I think for the first time ever, Austin is going to get some damn rain. Actually, it was supposed to be raining, but I don't know if it's raining. And I think that screwed up our whole broadcast we were trying to record or send live. But stay tuned for next week. Check out the description as well. The LBEB Underground has all the training programs. I mean, if you want to get strong grip, Colm has a bunch of strongman programs in there that all target grip. We also have Farm Boy Strong, which is a huge grip components in it, using a lot of fat bars and sandbags. And then we have all of Mona's weightlifting programs in there too. So make sure you check those out, and we will see you next week.